Yeah, well, I don't know. I was just trying to think of cold opening. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Rhyme and Reason. I am, of course, Matthew Kearns, but I am not alone. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Sandy, the Sandman Robinson. How you doing today, Sandy?
Hey Matt, I am doing great today. It is a wonderful Saturday here when when we're dropping this. I am. We've talked about a lot of stuff on this show. I'm excited for today.
This is the first time actually that fans of the show actually kind of led to this happening. Some fans of the show who will remain nameless decided to shit talk the Man of Steel. And so originally me and Sandy were going to bring on these individuals. But then we were like, you know what, that's an episode for 2019. We just want to talk, as the title of this video suggests, this is our all about Superman episode, which is why I'm wearing a Jean-Claude Van Damme shirt, because he's a real life Superman. He really is, guys. Look at that. No normal man
you can do those splits, man.
No, in reality, to not be too mean, Cody and Rob were kind of the big ones, which is perfectly fine. We got into a discussion about Superman and everything, and that just sort of kind of drove up me. It's this weird thing that happens when you're a fan of something like me and Sandy are of Superman, where it's like when you get into these discussions where someone isn't, it kind of, and not in like a defensive, in not a defensive way, and kind of just an actual, like, it puts in perspective how much you love something when you're telling someone that. And that's why we want to do this episode. We will, next year, we'll try to figure out a good time to get Cody and Rob on to really have a full discussion about why Superman doesn't work for them. But I think before we do that, understanding where me and Sandy come into that discussion, I think would be good. So today we are going to be talking about our favorite Superman movie, our top 3 Supermen, and our favorite depiction of the character. Sandy, do you want to say anything? You know what? To steal something from my favorite podcast, the Cinephiles, but to adjust it a bit, Sandy, do you remember the first time you came to Superman as a character?
Yeah, it was I'm old. So it's, I used to watch TV a lot when I was a kid, like a very little kid. And I was always drawn to the more mythological stuff. Like I watched a lot of Greek, Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans and then things along those lines. And even earlier than that. And for whatever reason, my mom put it on the old George Reeve serials they were on, like this one channel. It was like Thanksgiving or something along those lines. So this one channel was like playing, it was like a marathon of it. And I must have just sat there and watched this really cheesy, campy TV show, in mostly black and white, that was on there. And I thought it was amazing because like he flew, like he jumped out of the window and he flew, in a straight line. It wasn't, super awesome or anything like that, but I was just like, who is this guy? And so I would start asking my parents questions, who's Superman? What about And so I eventually got the whole story. And then in 1978, my mom took me to see Superman the movie. And that is where I fell in love for all time with Superman and why he's always been my favorite superhero.
Yeah, so for me, I don't actually think I've ever talked about this on camera before. I don't think there's ever been a time to talk about this. But the way I was introduced to comic books was actually through TV. Because I've said before on a couple things, my parents, they aren't really big fandom people. Like, they aren't big movie or TV or comic book people. So, like, I kind of, like, they showed me stuff, but that was more after, like, I kind of showed an interest in something. And so the way it came to comic books and superheroes was through animated shows. Cartoon Network, and the one that sort of got me into everything was Justice League Unlimited. That was running, and at the same time as that, Fox Kids, or it was WB at that time. WB Kids was running reruns Batman and Superman, the animated series. So at the same time I'm watching Justice League new episodes, I'm also seeing those, and that kind of, and like Teen Titans and everything, but that sort of sparked my interest into superheroes. And then somewhere along the way, Superman just kind of became like the one I would gravitate to, like in the shows and you know, video games based off the shows. So he was always the one I gravitated towards. Even though I loved Batman. There's a picture of me when I was in kindergarten. I dressed up as Batman for Halloween, but like I just sort of, at a certain point, gravitated more towards Superman. And then, like you, Sandy, I saw the Chris Reeve movies, and those kind of really just, we'll get into it probably, but just those just really sort of cemented and being my favorite. But what I want to ask here, Sandy, I'll answer it first, is just, Superman is your favorite superhero. Why is that? Like, why? Because for me, the thing, I'm trying not to be mean because, again, and this is not a hit at people like Rob and Cody, but to me, the number one criticism I get when you tell people Superman's your favorite superhero is, oh, he's so passé. My thing is, I've always viewed Superman as, he's the character that looks for the good in everyone and stands up for that good. And to me, I say, if that's passé to you, you have a really, really dark view of the world. If the one guy who you could be a really shitty person, like, I'm sorry, how many countless stories have had Superman saving Lex Luthor when he had easily let Lex Luthor die and all his problems would be solved, but he saves him? Yeah. Like, and that's Lex Luthor, his number one villain. Like, that to me, when people say he's passé, I'm just like, how? Like, how? That, and then also the Captain America movies are the only good Superman movies, which that's a whole another thing we don't need to get to, but it's just like, to me, that's what I've always loved, is he's, you know, Batman's great. I love Batman. He is my number two. And you know, the darkness and everything there, but like, there is a darkness to Superman, but the thing is that his struggle is, he is a Boy Scout, and he wants to be good, and he needs to sort of not push down the darkness, but like, he needs to let the light come out, because especially with who he is, he's a god. If he wanted to let the darkness out, he could. There's no one to stop him. Like, no one would be able to stop him. Not Batman, not Flash. No one would be able to stop him. And so his struggle is more, I can't let the darkness take over me, or else a lot of bad stuff can happen. A lot of people are going to get hurt, which I've just always... Jason Inman said it in a tweet once, and I'm paraphrasing the tweet here. Someone asked him, like, something about Superman. He was like, the most powerful man alien on this earth chooses to save us instead of control us. Think about that. Like, Superman, if he wanted to, he could be like Zod and just be like, this is my world, I will rule it. But no, instead, he flies around saving cats from trees. Like, that's what this guy, and it's, yeah, so that's what Superman means to me, and why he sort of endures as my favorite. But, Sandy, what about for you?
Everything you said there, Matt, is 100% correct. The thing about Superman, and I'm going to come at it a couple of different ways, because it's important to understand, you know, why Superman is who Superman is. He's an alien that was sent to our planet and raised by good, down-to-earth, hard-working people who honestly thought the best in people, and he was taught that throughout his whole life. he grew up as as a kid with all these amazing powers, but afraid because of the world that he lived in. The world would somehow take him and and experiment on him and do whatever they needed to do because he wasn't like everybody else. But even with that, he still chose to become a hero. He still chose to become, like, if you take the if you just take the 78 Superman the movie, and you see his journey from there, and and how Jonathan Kent dies and instills on him, it's along the same lines as Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. That truly envelops Superman as well, is that he has the ultimate power. People can say that he's bland, and he's not, but in a world where there are super beings of immeasurable strength that now come to Earth, and there's a Justice League, and there's superheroes that are fighting for that, when Darkseid comes, is Batman going to be able to beat him? Is Wonder Woman going to be able to beat Darkseid? Not always. Or
not always. I will, for all you Batman fans, I will say yes. Batman was able to avoid Darkseid's Omega beams. We will give you that, okay?
Absolutely.
But he didn't beat them; he just avoided them.
There is no question. Surviving Darkseid is different than being able to beat Darkseid. And when you have a group of people that are the greatest superheroes the world has ever known, and they can't put the biggest, baddest superheroes down. I mean, you take Doomsday, you take Darkseid, you take all of these General Zod. Like, you take all of these unbelievably super powered people. You need Superman, because Superman is the only person that can stop these people when it comes down to it. Now, I will say one of my favorite comics of all time is the Dark Knight Returns and the Dark Knight Returns Part 2. And it's an older Batman, older Superman, exactly. And and I will say to them, yes, Batman did defeat Superman in that thing.
I'm gonna push my glasses up and no, he didn't, actually, because Bruce Wayne dies. Which, by the way, continue. Again, I don't want to steal it, but just because we're talking about that, one of my favorite endings to a comic book ever is the funeral for Bruce Wayne, and it's now her name is escaping me. I was about to say Kitty Pryde.
It's Selena Kyle.
No, it's not Selena Kyle. It's Robin in Dark Knight Returns.
Oh, yeah. Can't remember her name either. Damn. Yeah,
I can't remember her name, but she's wearing kind of like, this sort of like overcoat kind of thing, and Clark's there, and kind of turns, sees her, and then with his superhero, and hears the heartbeat, and just the wink. Just like, I know what you're doing. All right.
Oh, and in his bruised up face, and he just gives that little wink to her. I know what you're doing.
And I'm so glad you brought that up. That's such a great depiction of that character, because I love how he doesn't want to fight Bruce. They have that great discussion in the woods together about just like, listen, man, I have a job with the government. Like, if you do something, I'm going to have to put you down. And the thing I love is, like, Bruce understands that, and that's the thing I like too. And listen, I love BVS, you guys know this, but I will agree that Dark Knight Returns did it better because they were older, and so they had this built relationship of the dueling ideologies and this thing.
That's right.
They are friends, but like, listen, Bruce, if you do this, I'm gonna have to put you down. All right, Clark, if you come at me, I'm not gonna give up, and which is why that fight is so great, because like, they are fighting, but they also kind of don't want to be fighting. But yes.
Oh, but you can absolutely tell that Bruce is fighting for his absolute life.
Clark is holding back. Clark's holding back.
Clark is absolutely holding back.
It's again to reference BVS. If I wanted you dead, I would do it already. Like, that's kind of like he. Yeah, but
Clark can fly into space and use his laser vision, his heat vision, and incinerate Batman from
or
outer
like one of
space.
my favorite
Like,
memes, he could just go. Have you ever seen this meme where it's Batman versus Superman? It's like Batman's like, "You can't beat me, Superman." Oh yeah, you want to bet? It's Superman. He flies back in time. It's Crime Alley. Superman jumps in front of Joe Chill, and then it's just little Bruce Wayne just whispers, "I win, Bruce." I love
yeah,
that so much.
it's great. It's absolutely exactly like that's what makes Superman so important because he chooses to not be that guy. Like he chooses to let the light in as much as possible and his belief in everybody. And there are very few instances where we see, Clark, Superman absolutely unleash, with no holds barred. And when that happens, guess who usually comes out on top? And it's usually him. And that's what's important to remember, that you can ask for an edgier Superman, and guess what? We got Man of Steel, and you all freaking hated it, and it's a great movie.
Yes.
And he was a darker, more flawed Clark Kent who had real issues that he was dealing with about who he was as a person and how he fit into society. And yet he was a little too dark for people. And then, you get Superman, 1 and Superman 2, and
we'll get
he's
into
too
that.
Boy Scouty. He's too Boy Scouty. It's like almost like Superman can't win no matter what.
You know what the thing is, and it goes back to the thing I said about Passe, which is just like, for whatever reason, I forget who it was, it might have been Kevin Smith or Ralph Garman. I don't remember who said it, but someone did. No, I think it was some Screen Junkies actually. It might have been. I'm not sure who, but it was like at one point baseball was America's sport, and then at a certain point football became America's sport. That's kind of what happened with Superman.
Yeah.
Which again, I if you don't like Superman, I'm not telling you you're wrong in any way. But to sort of not get back on track, because I think there's a great conversation. Before we really get into the main crutch of the conversation, I do want to sort of point out the true unsung heroes of Superman, which are Jonathan and Martha Kent. They are the true unsung heroes, because it's such a cliche to say, but it's so true, which is, if Clark, well, he wouldn't be a Kent, but like if Kal-El wound up with anyone else, he would not be the guy he is. Again, my favorite thing is, like, before in movies, before there was, I know the comics predate it, but before there was, I can't even remember who played Uncle Ben in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie now. I can't remember his name. Wow, I don't know why we're blanking on stuff.
It's Cliff Robertson, I think.
Maybe, yeah, Cliff Robertson or something. Before he said, "With great power comes great responsibility," there was Glenn Ford in 1978 Superman saying, "Son, you were sent here for a reason, and it's not to play football." Like, so great. I'm sorry. They are the true unsung heroes. If I was able to play anyone in a superhero movie that maybe wasn't a superhero, honestly, I would want to play Jonathan Kent. Like, I think that role is just so vitally important to why the character is the way he is. So, just want to give a shout out to Jonathan and Martha Kent. You guys are awesome.
Well, and you're absolutely right, and we actually do. I mean, I know we're going to get into our comic books a little later, but there is absolutely one of my favorite graphic novels that's out there that depicts exactly what you just said. It's called Red Sun, and he lands in Russia instead of Kansas, and he is not a good person.
Russia, Superman, not so nice. Sorry to any of our Russian viewers. Do we have any? I don't even know if we have any Russian viewers.
Who knows? But if we do.
But if you do, we'll retell this video all about Red Sonja. That's what we'll do.
Exactly.
Like, okay. In my mind, I go, I'll cut that, but I'm like, no, I'm too lazy. I won't cut that. So let's get this started. Big discussion here. Let's just get it out of the way. Top 3 Supermen. How we're gonna do it is mini top 10 style, which is, if my number 3 is Sandy's number 1, he says punt, vice versa. So, Sandy, And I think we'll just do number 3, 2, 2, 1,
Sure.
1. So, Sandy,
Yeah.
what's your number 3 favorite actor to play Superman?
My number 3 favorite actor is the newest Superman, or the newest Superman in the movies, and that would be Henry Cavill.
That is my number
Um,
3 as well.
okay, good.
Are we going to have
Hen-
the same top 3?
maybe, maybe I think our ones and twos might be flipped,
Okay.
but Henry Cavill really put a different taste in your mouth when it came to Superman. He played a flawed person, not the superhero, because we for the first hour of the movie it's all about
For the whole of the movie, not just first out. That movie is
exactly
Superman becoming a hero. It's his first outing. That's what the movie is about.
exactly. And like he added some depth to that character. It wasn't just like truth, justice, and the American way, and I hear the bad guy and I go and save it. It was, who am I? What am I doing here? Why do I have all of these powers? And why am I, what do I have to do with them? And every person in that movie, and in Batman v Superman, and in Justice League, he learned everything about how to be Superman from everybody in his life, his parents, Lois, even Bruce, Diana, all of
his
these.
relationship with Ben Affleck and Justice League is so
It's
great.
so good, right?
Oh,
it's
it's
just so good. I wanted
great.
so much more of that.
That is why Ben Affleck is my second favorite Batman next to Michael
Yeah.
Keaton. That is why if he stops being Batman and if we lose, like, that dynamic of those three, Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman in the movies now with Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck
Yep.
is so good. I want more. I'm sorry, like that end when it's just like, so how'd you end up getting the house back? Oh, I just bought the bank.
Just bought the bank.
But then also, like, there's other stuff where it's like, if you've seen the extended cut of BVS, where Martha Kent is just like, I have to go back to the house, I have to, pay them, and it's like, oh, it's already been covered by who? And I'm a stoner, you're like, oops, Bruce, fuck Bruce. And then,
Exactly.
so many things. We need to do a whole episode on Justice League, because that movie is great and has so many great moments in it. Continue about why Henry Cavill is great.
We should literally do a watch along to that, and then watch that movie and just kill it. You, me, and we'll get Ryan Permison in there too, and he'll love it. So, you know what? Henry is just he looks okay.
He looks like Superman.
Yes, I don't want to make it about personal appearance, and I don't, I'm not trying to, but Superman has a certain physicality to him, and he has the look. And that is important.
We are not saying that Superman can't be anything other than a white guy. We don't care.
No.
However, there is comic book, and there is Henry Cavill. Like that, just there is something. I mean, listen, me and Sandy are both straight men, but Henry Cavill is a damn fine looking guy.
Listen, I will speak for my wife, and when he comes out of the
don't do those speak for your wife. You speak for yourself.
Hey, listen, he is a handsome man. There is no
Where's
question
Mark
about that.
and Draco? We need Mark and Draco on here.
Absolutely, but the fact is Superman comes out of that birthing chamber with no shirt on, and my wife all of a sudden peeked up and went, "Hey, what are we watching?" And was interested. So you know what? That's you can make the costume as full of fake abs and little things here and stuff like that, but look at him. He absolutely fits the role of Superman perfectly. So why do you? I know Henry.
So first thing I want to say, but before we did this episode, I ran through. This is a great. I'm not sure. You can probably find it online. This is from Entertainment Weekly, celebrating 75 years of Superman. Really, really great issue. It
is.
Talks about stuff that I never knew about. There was a Broadway musical based on Superman, which you can actually find on YouTube. It's a really great. Just plugging this. If you're a Superman fan, you don't already have this, I would suggest hunting a copy down. It's really great. But I love Henry Cavill. In a lot of ways, I guess he's technically not my generation's because we got Brandon Routh. He he is sort of technically my generation's Superman. I remember, my lord, the hype for Man of Steel for me. I was in, oh lord, what was that? I was a, no, yeah. I was a sophomore in high, years early, tricky. Yeah, I was a sophomore in high school when that movie came out. And I mean, like, by that point, I was already, like, a big cinephile. I was already watching, like, AMC Movie Talk and everything. And I was, the hype surrounding that movie was huge for me. And I got to see it. I still have it on my wall. I got to see the Walmart screening the day before. If you went to Walmart, they were selling these tickets. And, oh my God, it was great. And I just, like, walked down. I was like, oh my God, that's a great movie. And just the multiple rewatches when I got the Blu-ray, like, Henry is so good and he's so different. And that's what I like. I like that he is a Superman that was raised differently than the Chris Reeve or Brandon Routh or Dean Cain or some of these other ones. Like, he was, and that affected him. Like, that scene with him and Lois at Father's grave where it's just like, my father believed that if the world found out who I was, they would reject me. And you're just like, you gotta think, like, his whole life. And I actually love the beginning part of the movie where he's just moving from job to job and he's kind of just, trying to find his place. Of course, I love the bar scene where, the guy's messing with the waitress. He steps in, dude pours the beer on him, punches him, does nothing, and he's about to, and then he pulls back, and then he crucifies the dude's truck because, hey, he may not have hurt him, but he was still raised by humans, still is kind of vengeful. Yeah. So he'll still mess with you, but
he fucked that truck right up.
Got that right. Guys deserve. Man, Superman in diners never really works out. We'll probably talk about this when we get to maybe another movie, but if you have a Superman movie or show or anything and he shows up in a diner, things are probably not going to go well for him. But yeah, Henry just, and like you say, he just has a look, and I love Justice League. I love how in Justice League he's finally established. Like, nothing will make me happier than the end of that movie of Clark Kent with the glasses and trench coat, hearing something, off with the glasses and the classic, just up and away. Yeah, Henry he's just fantastic. So, Sandy, You're number 2.
Okay, so this is where we might differ, but my number 2 is not even a movie Superman. He is Tom Welling from.
That is my number 2. It's Tom Welling.
There we go. Then we have the same. There we go. Absolutely. No, I mean, we share the same brain, Matt. That's the way it is.
I'll take this first, just because so I'm in the middle of my rewatch of Smallville. I'm on season 2, and my lord, Tom Welling is so good, and he's so different. Because he is young, and he is just discovering his powers, but God, there's something just about Smallville's Clark Kent that you're just like, there's no doubt in your mind that he grows into Superman. Like, there's no, like, yeah, is he a kid, and will he get angry, and will he do things and maybe shouldn't? Yeah, but he's also a teenager, but you're like, there's no doubt in your mind that he's gonna become the Man of Steel, which I like. I like that they have this, and all 10 seasons, he just gets progressively better and better. I mean, by season 10, just like, yeah, I mean, there's so many things to say. Like, if you've never seen Smallville, I know it's difficult to track down, but if you love the Arrowverse stuff, Smallville is kind of the reason why we have the Arrowverse, is because, well, it was actually WB. It wasn't CW at the time, but like they did this show, and then that sort of led to them being able to do Arrow and Flash. And this, I had to talk with Chris Slisky, who's Schmodown writer, and we both agreed that like Smallville stands toe to toe with anything that the Arrowverse puts out now, like toe to toe. And I mean, Tom Welling is a big reason for that, and just the way he is with people, and me and Sandy have both talked about we hate the Lana Lang years, just so, yeah, but once Erica Delancey comes into the show, sucks that they were only able to be a couple for 2 seasons, but they still have amazing chemistry. She is still possibly the best Lois Lane out there. I haven't quite been able to decide between her and Margot Kidder, who's my favorite, but my God, Tom Welling is awesome as Superman. Sandy, why do you love him so much?
So yeah, everything you said is what I would have said as well. It's 10 seasons. It's 10 seasons. CW, come to me when you've got a show that's been on for 10 seasons. And I love all the Arrowverse shows. I really do. They're must-see TV for me. But Smallville did it when it was an absolute crapshoot to do it. You got a young, not Superman, and you make a show about that.
I'm trying to think, and again, Sandy can speak more to this. I can only speak from really sort of documentaries and reading up on Smallville, because I wasn't around. It was 2001, so I was 4 when the show first started airing.
Yeah.
So, just think, you're doing a Superman TV show. Superman has been on TV since Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman ended in 97, I believe. So it's a couple of years. You gotta remember, 2001, this is a year before Spider-Man comes out. X-Men was just a year previously. So superheroes, were still kind of seen as, Joel Schumacher Batman, or they were really dark. They were Blade and Spawn. And, to come out and be we're gonna do a Superman TV show. Yeah, except he's gonna be a teenager. You mean Superboy from the 80s? No, because he's not going to fly, and he's not going to wear the suit. What? Think. But it turned out to be such a good show because, and listen, Superboy, I've watched the first season of. It's campy 80s fun. The actor they have playing him, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, he did a pretty good job. But it was very, it was mini Superman. It was an odd show, but the actor that had played Lex Luthor was horrible in the first season. My God, just not in Smallville. Smallville's Lex Luthor is great, and you know what? This is the thing when it comes to Superman. I just say so many things that now I know what I'm saying is because they held back that when you get to the last episode and you finally see the suit, it's so satisfying to see him wearing the suit and to pull the Tom Welling. Why is he not Superman in the Arrowverse? God damn it.
I know it is. Smallville as a series was such a good series, and yeah, I'm not a fan of Kristen Curick that played Lana, but those early seasons were really about Clark and Lex. Yeah. And Michael Rosenbaum and their friendship and eventual, descent into bitter enemies. Michael Rosenbaum's portrayal in that series as Lex Luthor is absolutely dead on perfect. It is 100% how every studio should try to find a Lex Luthor, and I swear to God, he's still a working actor out there.
Can he just be Lex Luthor in the movies?
Yeah, please? Can we please?
And can we also talk about? We already talked about Jonathan and Martha Kent, but my God, Annette O'Toole and Jonathan Schneider are to me the best Jonathan and Martha Kent we've ever had.
And I had reservations too, because remember, I'm old, right? So I was a Dukes of Hazzard fan. So I'm sitting there going, "Holy crap! They're putting him as Jonathan Kent in there. What?" I see that first episode, and you're just like, "Oh yeah, it works. It absolutely works."
But they're so the thing that I love about that is because you get so much more time, and most of the time they're kind of old. So the fact having them being younger, but you just feel oh, okay, this is why Clark Kent's such a good guy, because his parents are literally Jonathan Kent has his anger moments. They're actual people, but they're so just well-natured people. Yeah. And they're also funny. I was just watching the episode when Clark first discovers his heat vision. And so Jonathan Kent sets up the Scarecrow, and he's like, "Okay, now I just need you to think about what you're thinking about the last time this happened." And Clark's kind of sitting there. It's this would be easier if I wasn't there. Okay. And then he just walks away. It's great. But there's actually, so I actually listened as I said, I just started my rewatch. I actually listened to the commentary for the pilot, and they said Jonathan Schreider talked about something. He said like a week after the first episode premiered, he was in an airport, and someone came up to him and was like, "Hey, you're Jonathan Kent on Smallville." And he said that's the first time since the 80s that someone came up to him and said he was in something that wasn't Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
And he is so, like, Dukes of Hazzard is a fun, campy show, but God, he is so good in that show. And Annette O'Toole, I don't think gets talked about enough. She is such a great Martha Kent, and you can...
And all the way through the series.
Like, you...
And,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, like all the way through the series, like Annette O'Toole's the growth, like she becomes the, she becomes the senator, and
I
then
don't want to spoil Smallville, but there's a thing that happens to Jonathan Kent that still gets me upset that Martha just has to, and she, okay, again, I'm sorry to just reference specific episodes, but there's the episode when Jonathan gets hit with the flower and then he's in the hospital, and when she tells the story about when she first met Jonathan when they were at college, and he gave her his notebook, and she was like, he didn't know that I was actually the person who took the notes, and I was like, how do you know that I'll get back? He's like, you just kind of have to believe in people. She just starts crying. She's like, I just knew I needed to be there. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm crying myself at that. And I know he doesn't die. I'm like, no, he doesn't. But I'm like, no, don't you do this to me, Smallville. I can't say enough good things about Smallville because it is so, you just need to see it. Like, it's so great.
They're long seasons. They are, because it was on network TV, so it's not like nowadays when you get like good programming for 10, 12 episodes and stuff like that. They're long seasons to get through. And yeah, I think for the first couple of seasons, it was Monster of the Week kind of stuff. So you kind of slug through it, but still
but the
so
thing
good.
Is that it was Monster of the Week, but that was more because it was more about Clark. That was the thing. It was far more about Clark growing up, and so like having the focus be a little bit more on him and not so much on like the villains was kind of why it was there. And listen, I will say this to any first time watcher. Listen, the Lana Lang years, they are long. There was, when they first broke up, that should have been it, but they for whatever reason wanted to keep bringing her back. Hold on, she will be gone from the show before you know it, and then there will just be Erica Delancey, and it will be amazing. Even though she's with Oliver Queen, and it's all fucking, it really, I'm not sure what they were thinking with that, but hold on, because once you get to season 9 and 10, it's great, and they're hilarious.
Not even just season 9. I mean, the minute they from
season 4 when they meet.
Yeah, so season 4 is really fun to be on.
One of my favorite interactions is they're walking through the halls, and she's just messing with him. So it's just like, why don't we just keep our interactions with hello and goodbye? And she's just like, God. And then you get the dunk tank, which... also, by the way, guys, shout out to Chloe for ever proving that women can be friend-zoned as well, and your cousin can end up dating the guy you like. Poor Chloe. But then she winds up with Oliver, so I guess it's okay.
And listen, that's something really important to bring up. Let's stay within Smallville, because whatever has happened to Allison Mack post Smallville, being a weirdo,
we don't need to talk about that.
We don't not talk about that. But I'm going to talk about the supporting cast in Smallville all the way through the series. It is so good.
Sam Jones III is great as Pete.
So good as Pete. You've got Chloe, who's always there. You've got, then they bring in what's his pickle, the guy, and I'm sorry that I don't know a lot of names right now, guys, but I'm just trying to blast through this. Then they bring the kid who's the Kid Flash. Then they
Wally
have Wally West, and then they bring in Arthur Curry, who's Aquaman, and he shows up a bit. Oliver Queen, who is great as Oliver Queen in this.
He's not like Stephen Amell at all. He's not. But he's a really good depiction.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's great. Oh, I'm sorry. The episode when Lois and Clark are getting fake married and he sees an ex-booster, his reaction is so great.
It's so good. And our friend Sam Witwer, he was on, for a season as Doomsday.
Michael Ironside as
General Lois' dad. General Lang is so good. The supporting cast that showed up week after week and episode to episode was so good in this. I think we even had Cyborg at one point. I can't remember either.
Lionel Luthor is also fantastic.
So good. He's the Lex Luthor in 10 years already right there.
You understand why Michael Rosenberg's Lex Luthor ends up becoming who he becomes later on this season. And I think that's one of the coolest things is revisiting. It's just like, it's really cool to sort of see the friendship between Lex and Clark just sort of fall out and sort of to sort of have to be where it goes. And they did a really great job of like, it is tragic on both sides that what happens to them happens, but it's also like neither one of them was gonna give up being who they were, and it just sort of happened that they ended up having to be enemies. But as the praises can't be sung enough because it's a show that just needs to be experienced.
Yeah.
I would also say it's the type of show, listen, yes, I'm in the middle of my rewatch now. 10 seasons is a lot to get through. But if I can make a plea, don't skip any episodes, because even if it seems like it's a nothing episode, the writers did a great thing of like, Clark is always learning and growing through every episode. Even if he's not growing because of the villain, there's a talk with his dad or his mom or Pete or Chloe or Lana or Lois or Whitney or Lex, and he grows. And that's why when you get to the final episode, you feel like you've seen this character because you have grown, and it's amazing.
Well, and you delve right into, and like I said, like, to get back to our pick, Tom Welling performs Clark Kent as best as you could. Like, he's not, the first few episodes in the first season, he's got that bumbling stuff, like whenever he walks past Lana, she's got
in his defense, she's got kryptonite.
She's got kryptonite.
What was he going to do?
What is he going to do? But, like, they really did give us another version of Clark Kent that I love. Like,
and it's very believable. Like, it's very, like, he's not nerdy in like the Tobey Maguire Peter Parker sense, but he's not super awesome like cool guy. Like, he's a very normal kid. Like, he has his bumbling moments, and he also has like his kind of, again, once he gets to season 4 and he joins the football team and everything, he does get his more like cool grown-up moments and everything. Again, you guys might be thinking, why do you talk so much about season 4 and all this? It's literally because of Erica Delancey. Once she is introduced into this show, the show is kicked up to another level. Their fucking relationship is so great. I can't say, like, Sandy knows this. The reason why I started rewatching Smallville is because one night I fell into a void on YouTube of just watching Clark and Lois scenes from Smallville over the seasons. I was like, man, I really need to watch this show again. Like, I just kind of, because they're...
Yeah, no, it's...
Don't worry, I'll come back and visit. Is that a threat or a promise?
Exactly. I mean, the rewatchability of that show is fantastic. So, I mean, I try to watch the whole thing every couple of years, and it's so good.
If you have Hulu, it's on there. So,
and if you're in Canada, it's on Crave.
All right, so that's enough praise we've given Tom Welling and Smallville. If you can't tell, me and Sandy really love this show. But what's our number one, Sandy? Let's just say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Dean Cain.
Chris. What? That is not my number one.
Oh, really? Yeah, you're right. Dean Cain's not the best. No, it's Chris Reeve.
It is Chris Reeve.
Even though Dean Cain's pretty cool, but it's Chris Reeve.
Listen, Lois and
Clark, the New Adventures of Superman.
Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman is pretty fun, and it's a great little show to watch.
It's one of the great Lois Lanes of all time.
only 3 seasons, and you know
Four.
what? Four. Yeah, sorry, four. And Terry Hatcher is probably really close to being one of my favorite Lois Lanes of all time. But yeah, no, go watch that. You can see that series too. It's not a big commitment. Go and check it out. It's a fun show to watch. But yes, Christopher Reeve is both mine and Matt's number one pick as the greatest Superman of all time. It is quite clearly he had the look, he had the demeanor, he had the ability to play Clark Kent and to play Superman and be believable in both. His Clark Kent performance is so fantastic all the way through. I mean, he literally does play the bumbling Clark Kent perfectly, you know, tripping over stuff, you know, falling into the fire and, you know, and things like that. Just very, very classic Superman and just believable. The tagline, "You'll believe a man can fly." You absolutely believed that Chris Reeve was Superman and was flying through outer space or flying over here. And yeah, Matt mentioned it, you know, when we were talking about why we love Superman. Yeah, the first thing we see him do as Superman is rescue a cat for a little old lady.
Well, that's second thing. First thing.
Oh yeah, was Lois. It the boat?
No, he saves Lois. Then he saves the little girl's cat. Yeah. Then he stops criminals on boat. One of the best scenes ever. Bad That's Vibrations.
First round's on me.
Oh no, wait! I think it's Lois, cat. Then I think it's Burglar climbing the building, climbing the wall, then it's the boat.
Yeah,
I'd say that's just still Bad Delivery, Bad Vibrations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Chris just brought such a humanity to the character, like that perfect. He's almost a perfect combination between the great Superman that Henry Cavill is and the great Clark Kent that Tom Welling is, and put those two together to create an entire new Clark Kent and Superman, and the best of what you could possibly do. Strong, you know, sexy, you know, he was. I mean, he's classically trained, good looking, you know, tall.
Sandy and me revealing a lot about ourselves here, guys.
I am comfortable.
We also didn't mention Tom Welling.
That's right.
He's also a pretty good looking guy.
I'm comfortable enough in my own sexuality that I can say another man is handsome and be okay with it. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it is, he's, when I close my eyes and I picture Superman, it's the first one that comes to my mind. It is the first one that comes to my mind. So for me, Chris Reeve is what epitomizes Superman. He lived that heroic lifestyle his entire life, and a life that was cut.
Right up until the end.
Right up until the end. And, you know, was supportive of Smallville. He actually had cameos in Smallville.
Yep.
Because he loved the show so much. You know, he was always a supporter, never one to turn the fans away. He knew where, you know, people recognized him from, and he didn't get all huffy about it. He was an absolute gem of a human being and a great man.
I'll speak on this. You know, Robert Downey Jr. is a great Iron Man. And he does a lot of great things as Iron Man. And Chris Pratt is a great Star-Lord. He does a lot of great things as Star-Lord. And Chris Evans and all this. But there's something about who Chris Reeve was when he was Superman, and then the tragic thing that happened to him. And for a man who had so much and was, you know, you're Superman. You're seen to the general public as one of the most physically fit and capable people in the world to have had that accident. And it would have been so easy for Chris Reeve to have just went into a dark hole and just closed himself off. But what makes him the best Superman is it is the writing for Mario Puzo and the direction of Richard Donner, but it really all comes down to him. And I think you see that to who he became after the accident. He used a voice he knew he had to do a lot of good and to say a lot that other people can't. And he did that up until his death, and it's something that he was Superman right up until the end. Even though he might have hung up the cape in the 80s, he was Superman right up until his death in the early 2000s.
That's right.
I mean, you hear the stories of the producers and everything were like, this guy can't be Superman. Like, he can't. And then his first screen test, and they all say, they're like, the minute he jumped down onto that roof and said, even in Miss Lane, everyone went, oh, no, wait, that's Superman.
That's it.
And he was a skinny guy. He was not super physically fit, and they were all prepared to make a costume with fake muscles. And he was like, no, I'm Superman. I need to work out. And he did. Like, he put so much into this role. And to everyone, to everyone who says the glasses thing is stupid, it makes no sense, I challenge you to watch the scene when he is in Lois's house after the Can You Read My Mind, when she's going to get herself together and he takes off the glasses and he puffs up his chest. Lois, I need to talk to you about something. Lois, they like, just on a dime, and you go, that's how he does it. There's also things I love in that movie, which is stuff that only crazy people like me recognize, which is he actually parts his hair different ways from when he's Superman to when he's Clark Kent.
I'm glad you recognize that,
Matt.
Like, I'm glad you did.
But it goes back to that scene of, that's why the glasses make sense. And he does it with, there's no camera tricks. And that's the thing I love too, is there's no makeup trickery or anything they do. It's literally just an actor being able to portray two separate characters, and in that one scene, make them... I'm honestly, like, going to just insert the scene, because my recreation of it is nothing to what Chris Reeve, and that is why the glasses thing, Chris Reeve made sense. Like, he made it work in that moment of, like, that's how he does it. Like, and there's so many more of just in the alleyway with the guy, and he fires the gun and he grabs it and he acts like he passed out, and then just he kind of takes the joy, and then he's invulnerable, because when Lois is walking away, it's just like he has the bullet, it's just like like, he knows he wasn't gonna get hurt, he knows Lois, and there's, like, again, funny face, it's just like, Lois, I don't know why you almost risked your life for, like, $27 and, like, a hairbrush or something. It's like, how'd you know that was in there? Lucky guess. He is, and then as Superman, he's so strong, but the moment for me has always come down to when he's holding Lois's dead body in his arms. And just, there's no words. And Chris Reeve, who has been so stoic and Boy Scout, and I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way, just gets to unload fucking leash. And that scream is so, if you have, I don't care if you've never dated anyone in life, if you have ever loved someone, I don't care if it's your grandmother, your father, your dog, if what happened to Lois happened to them, that primal love of just losing them and you being so close to saving them is so powerful. And then you believe why he does what he does, and he's so... God, and I mean, Miss Tessmacher saves his life, and she says, but you have to save my mother, and he's talking about Lois and Jimmy. Well, what does he do? He saves Miss Tessmacher's mother first. He stops that missile first, because that is who he is, and it's just...
He made a promise.
And listen, Superman 4 is not the greatest movie in the world. Superman 3, Dark Superman, Chris Reeve is great in, and I will still die on the hill of one of the greatest scenes, and not just Superman, but in comic book movies, is Clark Kent versus Dark Superman.
Yep.
It's amazing. And then in Superman 2, when he gives up his powers, and again, go back to that diner scene, and he just... The reaction that Chris Reeve gives of seeing blood for the first time, when he gets smashed into the glass, and Lois is trying to clean him, he's just like, it's blood. It's my blood. You just believe it. You're like, Yeah, because he spent his whole life with nothing being able to hurt him. This is the first time he's ever seen his own blood. Like,
Yep.
he's never felt that, and it's just... But then, what does he do? He stands up to the guy again and gets the shit kicked out of him, but, like, it's so powerful, and he's so good, and you just believe that he's that character, and that Superman is never going to let Lex Luthor win, and he is never going to let General Zod win, and he's going to give up his happening with Lois Lane because he knows it's the right thing to do, and it's just like, that is Superman.
Yeah.
Which is,
100%.
we'll get into, I guess we'll just use now. My favorite depiction of Superman will forever be Chris Reeve. There are, talk about Smallville, there are a lot of great comics, from the 80s and the 90s. The Man of Steel, which was sort of his post-crisis return. Great story. Great depiction of Superman. Definite return of Superman. Great, but Chris Reeve in the first two Superman movies will forever be the best. There's nothing that can top that depiction of just like a guy who just wants to do good, even at his own expense.
And see, that's my favorite depiction of Superman is also Chris Reeves, but it's specifically my favorite performance is in Superman 2. We talked about it earlier about him playing that Clark Kent, and when they're in Niagara Falls and Lois finally clues in, she's got it all figured out, and she finally clues in and she just jumps off and into the river. And he knows that if he changes into Superman and goes and gets her,
she's going to believe him, and
she's going to believe him.
He has to figure out how can he save her while also not, and he's able to get. But then I love
Lois,
when he
and then
does
he uses the
figure
laser to cut the branch
but
down.
I still love later on
on
that night when he accidentally trips and the hand goes in the fire.
Exactly.
We need to talk.
Yeah,
and also from Superman 2, just
can't believe why I did I can't believe I did that. I shouldn't have. Why did I do that?
Superman
and she's
2.
like, maybe you wanted to, and he's like, I don't think I did.
He gets his powers back. They're at the Daily Planet. General, would you care to step outside? Oh, it's so great.
Good.
Also, just a reminder for everyone who complains about Man of Steel. Superman killed Zod in Superman 2. He threw him down the chasm in the Fortress of Solitude. Let's not forget that.
And
let's not forget
Lois
that
killed Ursa. Like she and pushed her down that chasm too. And Non kind of kills himself because he thinks he can fly and goes down. But yeah, no, Superman absolutely chucks Zod down into the chasm of no return because guess what?
We never saw him again. If he didn't, Zod tried to kill the entire world and enslave it. So can we all just give Superman a pass on that one?
I know.
Just can we?
Killing people or killing one person. I mean, Superman, he wants to save everybody. We know that, but hard decisions sometimes have to be made, and he had to make that.
Just let him die?
Just let the family die in the corner there in the library? No, you just you do what you have to do. And Zod challenged him. Zod showed him. He's like, I won't stop. I will not stop killing.
Says that. He says,
yeah, I won't stop. I'll keep killing everybody. And Clark has to.
And everyone yes, we all make the jokes of why doesn't that family just run the other way? It's okay, I'm gonna put this in perspective. If you're standing there with your family and some dude's shooting lasers out of his eyes, slowly moving towards you, you're gonna be in the mindset to where you're just
Superman should be good.
There's this open thing over here that we could just run. You kidding me? No. You're really gonna tell me that in your right set of you're not gonna be in the right set of mind. No,
you're gonna cower in the corner
and it's
please save me.
It's so great of just he's trying to get Zod to stop, and it's just Zod won't. He's not going to, and it's just it's again. And the thing about superheroes is sometimes they have to make that choice, and sometimes that choice can lead to a lot of good, and sometimes it can lead to bad. And then
Yeah.
they live with the choice, and that choice affects who they are and what they do. And I
Yeah.
think that does affect him in BVS and who he's trying to be, and how he's trying to not become Zod.
I agree.
But that's a full different
Oh,
conversation.
absolutely is.
Trying to think, what else? There's so much we could talk about with Superman.
There really is, but I
There
don't,
really is.
I mean, I think Superman is he's one of the oldest, superheroes
I'm sorry,
known
he
to
is
exist.
the oldest.
He's the
He is the
oldest.
first.
Yeah. And
1938.
we
Action
could,
Comics #1. He is the
yeah,
first. He set the standard. And then in 1978, he set the standard for what a comic book movie
movie.
is.
Yep.
That's what Superman has done.
And then in 2001, we
And
saw
then he set the
Superman. What a
standard for
TV
what
show!
he
What a
really.
TV show
I'm
can
sorry,
do.
going back to the 1950s, he set the standard for superhero TV shows
That's
with
right.
George Reeves, and then
Yep.
in 2001 with Smallville. Like, that is the thing, and people listen. I will, There's the old rhyme: first is worst, second is best. There's the one with the hairy chest. That's something me and my family used to say as a joking thing, but I will concede to you that being first does not always mean you're the
No.
best. Tobey Maguire, just because he was the first live action Spider-Man doesn't mean he's the best. But you have to give credit to Superman for every time he was first, how he established
Yeah.
in comic books, how to establish taking a story that already existed and changing, and because the backstory of Superman is really, if you're a religious person, it is Moses. It is putting the baby into the basket, sending it downriver. It gets picked up by Pharaoh's daughter, gets raised in a world that's not his. When he gets to a certain age, for whatever reason, he leaves that home behind, and then when he's a man, discovers what his true destiny is supposed to be, and goes back to that world to save the people. That is the story of Moses, and that is the story of Superman. And
That's
right. It is, if you are a religious person, that is, and even if you're not, it's just like this. There's a reason why the Ten Commandments is considered one of the great films of all time, because it's a very relatable story. And that's what Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster did, was they took this story that existed and that people recognized, and they just said, well, what if it was not a Jewish woman with her baby in a basket? What if it was aliens on a dying planet? And what if it wasn't in Egypt? What if it was in Kansas? And they kind of just changed it. And then, and again, I'm not saying that the 78 Superman has to be your favorite, but
no.
Give credit where credit's due. That, listen, the effects may not be the same as Infinity War. Cool. It's 1978, and they were ILM did things that they never did before.
Nope.
And a lot of the reasons why you have effects of superhero movies like you do today is because ILM had to force themselves to do what they did.
Innovate. Nope.
I don't care if you think Chris Reeves' costume is stupid because it's just tights and his underwear. Listen to what the guy in the tights is saying. And actually really, really listen to the conversations that he has with Jonathan Kent, with Jor-El, with Lex Luthor, with Lois Lane. Listen to what the conversations are about this guy, and you'll realize that is why that is one of the great comic book movies, because it established this thing of these are people who have these powers, and they have struggles, and there are people like Lex Luthor who will try to exploit them, and then there are people like Jonathan Kent who will try to uphold them, and there are people like Lois Lane who will try to question them, and then there are people like Clark Kent who know who they are and just want to be good and kind.
Yeah, I'll mention two things. You're absolutely right. Superman was the first in almost every media genre that he's been in. We don't have what we have today as far as superhero stuff goes without Superman, no pun intended, doing all the heavy lifting and being put out there as as okay, if you guys like Superman, then then maybe later we can do more of this, and if it's and stuff like that. So yeah, without Superman, there's you may not like him, he may not be your favorite, but he paved the way for everything else to come.
And there is also this thing of just like, he may not be your favorite, but this goes back to the conversation on top of his passe, which is, I honestly implore everyone, if you are someone who says that and you believe that, go back and read some of the older Superman comics. I'm talking about like 60s, 70s. Go back and watch the 78 movie. And then really think about what is passe about him. Because I'll repeat that thing of, he looks for the good in people and just wants to defend that.
Yeah.
Why is that passe? Why should Superman be considered passe? Maybe what has happened in our world and with our comic books is, we want more characters like Batman in The Dark Knight, which are dark and very moody and very, wear their emotions, on their sleeve, and they're very angry, and the villains are really angry, and everyone's just really angry. It's a really dark and twisted world, and the only way to save it is to really be darker and to put the world, and just take, maybe what we need is a Chris Reeve Superman.
Yeah.
Maybe what we need in this dark comic book world is the one guy who's like, yeah, I have problems. Yeah, I got dark moments, but like, I kind of am trying to just be a beacon for people. I want to be someone that people can uphold and strive to be like, and defend them from the things that will try to hurt them. And yes, I'll put the world on my shoulders, and it's going to be a heavy load to carry, but it's my choice to carry it. It's not my challenge. It's not a challenge to do. It's my choice. Like, Bruce Wayne feels responsible for the death of his parents, which is why he does what he does with Batman. That's not Superman. Superman made a choice to use his powers to defend us.
That's right.
That's what I can say, and you could disagree with me. If you do, that's great. But again, I implore you to go back and look at look at where Superman really came from. Don't just look at Henry Cavill. Like, look at Chris Reeve and George Reeves and the Schuster and Siegel comics, and what you'll see is you will see a character who I literally just wrote a term paper on Superman when it was introduced. And you gotta remember, nice. I think this is going to be a good place to end, which is, Superman was introduced in 1938. For those of you who don't know your U.S. history, that was right in the middle of the Great Depression and a couple of years before America enters World War II. Pretty much one of the darkest times in American history. Right smack in the middle of that, Schuster and Siegel introduce a character who was a response to that. He was
bright.
He was someone who you could look up to, and someone who you could try to be like, and he lived in a dark world. He didn't live. The first issue is all about these criminals who kidnap Lois Lane and are gonna kill her, and Superman jumps in to save her. He does not live in a happy, sunshiny world. He lives in pretty much the world that America was living in, but he was that beacon. And 80 years later, I think he is still that beacon. I just think, for whatever reason, people put blinders on to that light. And that's just me. And you can call me a Superman shill, or a fanboy, or whatever. Whatever you want to call me, go right ahead. Don't be a dick about it. If you want to disagree with me, like Rob and Cody, we had a great conversation. And you know what the fun thing was? No one called anyone a dumbass. No one said you're completely wrong. Like, no. And that is why we're going to have Rob and Cody on here one day, and we're going to have this conversation with them. But I really do implore you to go back to where it all started. Read. It's online. You can probably easily find it online. A copy of it's 13 pages is the original Superman comic from Action Comics, and see it's kind of where everything came from.
I will voice exactly what you just said. Don't listen to us, but just for our opinions, because that's all that these are. There's a reason why this Shield is recognized in every corner of every place in the entire world, and it's because of the impact that he's had as a character. Go back, watch the 78 Superman. Go back, see if you can watch a couple of the episodes. I mean, of the old George Reeves serial TV show. They're no less campy than the 70s or the 60s and 70s Adam West Batman TV shows. So give it a chance. Go back and see what this is. There's no harm in it whatsoever. And let's all be nice. Let's get
a discussion going.
Exactly.
Not an attack. Because I hope that you don't think me and Sandy are trying to attack you, because we're not. What we're trying to do is, so many people, they hate Henry Cavill and Dark Superman. That's why we're trying to say, go back and look at the Chris Reeve stuff and listen. If you disagree with us, that's great. Why? If you agree with us, that's great. Why? Don't regurgitate things that we say. Why do you love Superman? If you don't like Superman, be nice to us because we like him. Like, in the same way that, if you like The Flash, just, let's all be nice. And let's just try to have a discussion. That is what this show is about. It is about discussing things that we love. And I guess this is a good place to let you guys know that this is actually the last episode of 2018 for Rhyme and Reason. And to be honest, I think this was a really, really good topic to end on, and to sort of, for the rest of 2018, Sandy and me did this show because we just like talking about movies and TV that we like. We hope that if you have watched this show for the past 7 episodes, 8 including this one, even if you never agreed with us, maybe it got your mind rolling on, what are your favorite Star Trek movies? What are your favorite Star Wars movies? Your favorite anime films, sports, whatever. Who's your favorite superhero and why? What is your favorite depiction? What does that superhero mean to you? That's kind of all we want to do, is just sort of promote the love of fandom. Because if Twitter and Facebook has proven to us anything, is that people like to take their fandom and attack other people who disagree with that. And that's bad. And Rhyme and Reason is not that. It is, let's just have fun and let's just talk about it. So if you are someone who watched us for the latter half of this year, thank you so much. Sandy, do you want to say anything on that?
Absolutely. I've been saying this on every show, at the end of every show. I don't need to plug myself or where I am. I just absolutely want to say we appreciate, on every show that we do, we appreciate all of you guys. Everybody that comes in and makes a comment or says something or is just watching or having some fun or, literally giving us stuff to think about. It doesn't always have to be, hey, you guys are kicking ass and doing this. It's like that. If you have a constructive piece of criticism, we appreciate that too. We do this for zero money. We do this for zero recognition. We do this because of the love that we have for these topics. And if you shared this with us in any way throughout the last half of this year and are just gung-ho for us to start back up again next year, thank you so much. We can't do this without you guys, because if we don't have any views, if we don't have any watches, then we would still do it, but nobody else would appreciate it.
It's a lot better, if you have been watching this, again, and give us topics you want to talk about. We did a lot of the big ones, so give us stuff if you want us to talk about what our favorite sitcoms are. There's really a lot. This is, if there's something you just want to know our opinion on, we'll talk about. We might do a Q&A episode one day. Who knows what 2019 is going to bring, except it's going to be a full year of Rhyme and Reason instead of just a very small portion of the latter half of the year.
Exactly. You know what? And if you think that there's something that should be talked about that isn't being talked about as much, that's something that this is what the show is all about. We're trying to talk about things that
if there is a
nobody's talking
show
about.
that you love, or a comic book or something that you think should be talked about, if me and Sandy have any knowledge of it, we'll talk about it. You know, this should be a place to where you can be like, oh, cool. Because we're not gonna. This will never. I will promise you this. If there's one thing, me and Sandy can promise you, this will never be a show of. This will never be a responsive show in the way of like, man, I went on Twitter and some guy said Jean-Claude Van Damme was the worst action star ever. He's a fucking idiot. Let me tell you, you dumbass fucking John8721 on Twitter. You're such a fucking idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. Get your head out. We will never do that. What we'll do is, this guy said this thing, well, okay, but like, here's why Jean-Claude Van Damme I think is so great, but I can also understand why, we did it. We talked about why Henry Cavill and why people may, not sing to the tune of him and blah, 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 So yeah, these 8 episodes have been fantastic. We have something really cool that will be dropping in January for all you guys. Me and Sandy are going to be recording it soon. We're doing a commentary on Hoosiers. Is not live. No. It's not a watch along. Is a audio commentary. It will drop sometime in January, and it's just going to be me and Sandy, watching one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite sports films, one of Sandy's favorite, and we're just going to have a real fun time. It's not Superman, is it not Star Wars? No, but that's kind of why we chose Hoosiers, because we don't really, in this sphere, don't really get to talk about movies like that much, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Fandom is not just superhero movies, guys. It is fandom of anything that you would want to be a fan of. And Matt and I are both big fans of the movie Hoosiers, and it's a criminally underrated movie. So we wanted to absolutely bring it to you guys' attention and do a commentary with it. So
I know what you guys might be saying. Why is a show where it's 2 guys for like an hour and plus talking about movies, why are you doing audio commentary? There seems to be no rhyme or reason to that. You just figured out the title of the show, didn't you?
There it is.
I just like to say that. I think that's the best way to end the show. So again, thank you guys, as always, so much for watching. Please share this video around. Word of mouth helps. If you agree with us, drop in the comments why. If you disagree with us, be nice and drop in the comments why. You can follow me on Twitter at Kearns_Math. You can follow Sandy at
Robinson1799 and Twitter and Facebook.
Twitter and Facebook. Thank you guys so much. We have a lot of cool stuff that we're definitely going to bring to you in 2019. We have no idea what any of that is, but we'll figure it out the last week of January when we record the episode. We will return. The first episode will probably be dropping early February. So we're going to take the rest of this year off. We're going to take January off so that we can be with our families, get ourselves reorganized for the new year, and we will be back to talk about all the things that are important that you didn't know were important. Take care.